everybody, and welcome to DeFeet World. This is the podcast where we explore the two-wheeled lifestyle. This is where we talk cycling and all things bicycle related. We talk with people whose lives have revolved around bicycles. We look at the culture of the sport and the great brands that are in it, and we talk about the machines and gear that are all part of it. And for those of you who may not know, DeFeet is a small company of skilled craftspeople. We're located in the Blue Ridge Mountain region of North Carolina, and this is where we've been making the finest socks and accessories for cyclists and two-wheeled lifestyle enthusiasts for over 26 years now. So as a valued listener of these podcasts, there will be a code mentioned at some point in the show where you can receive a nice discount on your next order at DeFeet.com. That's DEFEET.com. So simply listen along and take note of the code when you hear it. These codes are only valid for 7 days from the time the podcast is first posted, so make sure you subscribe and get alerted when we post new shows so you can participate in those offers. It's our way of saying thank you for listening and also being part of this great ride we're all on together. So let's get started with this week's show, shall we? All right, I'm sitting with Richard Pestes from PesCyclingNews.com. Thanks for being on DeFeet World Podcast.
Pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be sitting. It's a pleasure to be talking to you and actually doing my first podcast. You know, this is my first podcast.
Ever?
Pretty sure it's my first one ever.
No way.
I think so, yeah.
Wow. Well, welcome to the world of podcasting.
Wow. And thanks to anyone who's listening. Do you think people will listen to this?
I don't care right now. I think I like audio because audio, when you don't have to watch a video, that is when that can be, pulling weeds and learning something or listening to something. People who love cycling are going to be able to just go about their day.
Oh, I don't like where that hand is being.
Oh, we got Tom Caddis from Campanile bumping in here.
Just finished squeezing Shane Cooper's ass, and then he shook my hand with the same hand.
Oh, yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast here. It's all right.
It's a live
podcast. Yeah, so audio is just a great form, but what you've done all these years with, and we'll get into that in just a moment with Pez Cycling News is you've always been in the digital realm with digital media.
Yeah, I think it pictures and words is kind of where we started.
Pictures and words. And when did you get? 16 years ago.
16 years ago, 2002, and it was, I believe, 2002 was the first time we came to Interbike, which is a great little story because I didn't have any money to come to Interbike. I'm pretty sure I didn't even know what Interbike was, but I got an email from a guy named Charles Manintan who I'd never heard of before, and was just a fan of cycling. And he said, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing on Pez. I'd like to go to Interbike, and if you get me credentials, I will get some coverage for you." And I was like, "Okay, you have to pay your own way to Interbike." He goes, "Yeah, no problem." I was like, "Okay, you're in." So Charles has been our chief technical officer and project. He does beautiful project bikes, amazing reviews, and he's been with us from pretty much that time on. He was really what one of the key points of what started Pez on its path to some popularity back when nobody was watching, was that we started posting original tech content from Interbike 2002.
Yeah, I know that I met you right around that time. Maybe it was that exact year, but I do recall when you were just getting started, and I think you called me on the phone out of the blue. But you have, all through these years, you have carved out a niche for yourself in this cycling content world, and how has your growth been over the years? I know that you must have a devoted readership.
Yeah, well, after 16 years, I would say we have a pretty devoted readership, and when I talk to our readers, I am astounded and honestly humbled by the fact that guys tell me, I always ask them, when did you start reading Pez? And it seems like without fail now, they can't remember when they started because it's been going on for such a long time. And I'm like, really? And oh yeah, and they can cite specific articles. I have guys, as an example, who drink Negronis because they read an article about the Negroni that I wrote 10 years ago. Or
did you write? I missed that one. But do you
no,
like Negronis?
I love Negroni. That's my signature cocktail.
I had an incredible Negroni. Really? I had one in Bassano del Grappa in July.
Of course you did.
It was fantastic. I mean, it was so good. I could be converted to Negronis. I mean, I prefer Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, let's go down this path for a second because it's one that I like, and that's the Negroni path. And I know that I have documented history of me drinking Negronis in 2004, but I know I was drinking them before that. I just don't know how much longer. So I think I really started around 2003. And I think it was because my fascination with everything Italian, which has continued, was spurred by what's the cocktail what do they drink in Italy? So when I go to Mexico, I like to drink tequila. When I'm in the UK or if I'm going to Scotland, it's going to be Scotch.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, I want to drink what the locals are drinking to get the full feeling of what the place is all about. So Italy, I went in early and I started hitting the grappa hard. I had a difficult time with grappa, a bit of a love-hate relationship. I'm sad to say, couldn't really get my lips wrapped around that one, if you will. It took me a long time. But the Negroni would seem to be a much more accessible drink. It's boozy, which I love that. It's strong. It's a pretty masculine drink, even though it's a bright orange color, but it looks so damn delicious when you look at it. And women see this drink and they're like, what's that? All of a sudden you become an international man of mystery.
It's a manly drink. It is. And when I think back, I have not had one since that night in Bassano del Grappa. And when I think back right now, you're describing it, and I had the sensation in my salivary glands.
Yeah.
I could actually taste that Negroni in my mouth. I had, that kind of bitter, musky. I don't know if it's musky or something, or like a bitter. It's just got a power to it that I suddenly started to associate with like
good
that
times.
town. Yeah.
It's the classic elements of the cocktail. It's bitter, it's tart, and it's sweet, and it's strong. And there's no screwing around with it. You put some ice in a glass. You can't mess up the recipe unless you're an idiot. And that's, so you just make this beautiful drink.
And I don't think I'd have the desire to overdrink that drink.
I don't think you can overdrink that drink. And I can assure you, after many years, and I have drank in gallons of that stuff.
And it hasn't affected your cycling?
I think it's increased my enjoyment of cycling. It's certainly increased my enjoyment of life. For sure. Because let's face it, you hit a certain point in your life.
Here, we're going to do a fist bump on that one.
Okay, you hit a certain point in your life where you really look forward to your alcoholic intake at that point of the day, which for me usually runs between 5 and 7 p.m.
Yeah, me too.
And I like a drink. I like a good stiff drink. If it's hot out, I like to start with a beer. And then depending on what season is or what mood I'm in or what the event is, I'll have a Negroni almost every day.
Do you find, like, if I'm trying to ride my bike at a decent level, like a high level, like if you're racing, it just doesn't really work that well. Alcohol, that sort of alcohol on a daily basis, it's just not that good for the bike racer. They might have a glass of wine, something, that's fine. But now we're in a different time in our lives. We don't have to worry about that.
I'm not racing. Are you racing?
No.
So, but I like riding, and I'm not.
Yeah, I want to balance it well, so I don't want to.
Everybody's different, right? Everybody's got a different relationship with their alcoholic intake, and you figure out what works for you, or hopefully you do. That's up to the individual. I find that I really don't get drunk very often. If I am drunk, my ride the next morning usually doesn't happen if I'm hungover or if I'm tired.
And that's a bummer, isn't it? That's kind of
it depends, because where a lot of it coincides with the fact that I'm willing to go out and invest a good time Saturday night, because I'm enjoying certain, maybe different elements of my life now than I did in earlier days. I did do some really good early morning rides this summer, which I gotta say re-tapped me into my riding mojo. And
how early?
Like tee off time at 8 o'clock, so I'm up at 6:30.
Yeah. Good.
Saturday morning, making breakfast, everybody's asleep, and I get up and I go and join the group, and really reconnected with the big group ride and how much fun it was. Yeah. So that was for me. One of the best parts of this summer, and I didn't change my Negroni intake by any stretch. But I did go a bit lighter on those evenings because I knew, hey, I want to get some rest. I want to be able to get up and enjoy the ride.
So you balanced it out to what worked for you.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's 2018. We shifted now to Reno. I've been asking people how they feel about this change in Interbike. I mean, what is it? Are you affected by this at all? How do you see this?
I am affected by the travel to get here. It took me a bunch longer than it normally. 2 flights instead of 1 because there are no direct flights from Vancouver to Reno, unfortunately. I like Las Vegas as a city. So I would always look forward to being there. A lot of times Mrs. Pez would come and join me for the weekend, so we'd spin up a little, break at the end of it. There was, there's always food around and people and things to do. So as an example, last night at 9 o'clock I was looking for a meal. It was 9:15 I was looking for a meal, and back in the hotel. And all of the restaurants closed at 9, except for a couple of these 24-hour cafes, which served a very disappointing menu of victuals, if you will.
Well, I bet if you go further down Virginia Avenue, you'd probably find some. It's a little bit more hipster down there.
Yeah.
I've been shocked to see that part of Reno starting to come out, but it's sort of like Midtown. It's like a Portland at altitude or something. Portland in the mountains kind of thing going on.
You know what? I did pass through there in the Uber last night on the way we were here for the media event, and then I'm heading back to downtown, and the Uber guy took me through Midtown, and I saw a lot of cool.
So you saw it. You know
I did
it when
see
you're
it.
in it.
Yeah. I could totally see it, and I was like, okay, my opinion of Reno was elevated a notch or two
me as well
at that time, and I haven't stopped anywhere yet. But tonight, for sure, I'm going into. Here's what I'm doing tonight. Meeting up with some of the guys from Castelli USA who are down here, and we've decided to get together for a meal, and I spotted a small hole-in-the-wall burger joint called Beefy's, which was about the size of your booth, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not much bigger. Maybe
Sounded
even smaller. And it was full-on hole-in-the-wall, and I said, now that looks like the kind of place I want to go into.
You might be onto a gem.
Yeah, I want to go check this out. And the Uber guy said, oh yeah, that place is good.
All right, well, I officially like Reno better than Vegas, so although I was here for Interbike in 1986.
Whoa. That must have been a different time. What was that? How about you answering a question? What was that like? Interbike in 1986. Greg LeMond was at the height of his powers, or getting to almost at them. He'd just beaten Bernard Hinault to win the Tour.
Yeah,
must have been
this was his stomping ground here, Washoe Valley, right down the road.
Exactly.
Bob LeMond, his dad, right here in Reno.
Yeah.
I remember driving around Reno with his dad during Interbike that year. It was, the bike show was the bike show, and a lot of these brands have changed over the years, but it's, the look and the feel of Interbike is actually pretty similar. It's not like the cycling industry is this industry that explodes in growth. It has grown at times over the years. It's slightly receded at times, but it hasn't necessarily been like an explosive growth industry necessarily. Although over the years, different parts of it explode.
Right.
Everything kind of moves around and then redistributes.
Yeah, okay.
Mountain biking gets real popular. Road riding declines. Gravel riding gets popular. So the people are moving around. And if you're lucky at the end of the 10-year period, the industry has outpaced inflation. That's what it kind of seems like to me anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I was at my first Interbike in 1996 or so in Anaheim, maybe 97 in Anaheim. And you're right. It as a trade show, you're in a big expo space with a bunch of booths, and it doesn't feel that much different from that than it did back then. What's different for me is I know way more people now than I used to. And I've been like you guys have really seen the cycling industry rise and fall and rise again and fall again and whatever, go through some cycles. And I got into it and watched at a good time when Lance was driving road cycling like crazy in North America. So I, like everybody else in road cycling, just got on that bandwagon and we all rode that wave. of popularity to everybody who wasn't a cyclist and wanted to become a cyclist.
And now a lot of those people who might have just jumped in at that time have sort of filtered out or moved on to.
Oh yeah, I know a
whatever.
lot of guys.
I don't know, where did they go? Taibo? Did they go to?
Yeah, they're not biking.
Zumba?
You know what else? I wonder about guys aging out of the roads on the
I've
road
seen
side
it happen.
specifically.
I've seen it happening.
Yeah.
Friends of myself who's sometimes they've either had bad accidents or friends of theirs have had accidents. Yeah, it's how many guys, if you look at it from a percentage standpoint, how many of your friends that you've known have been able to go from the time that they're, say, 30 to 60 and maintain that sort of fitness, and health, overall health that allows them to enjoy cycling till they're 60 and beyond.
Yeah.
So,
And how long or how many times can you do something over and over again until it becomes just, maybe you get bored of it. You just want to do something else because you've done it so many times. Like, you're just riding your bike, you're pedaling and going around in circles.
I mean, you're married. You can do it. You can do it if you truly love it.
We just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary, as a matter of fact. So, I'm
the things that you truly love, you'll never get tired of doing. And so cycling is like that. That's how it is for me.
Yeah. What I notice as I'm 55 now, so I've been riding big two-wheelers since I was about 20 years old, and I certainly don't have the inherent natural fitness that I did when I was in my 20s or even my 30s. But in my 30s, I started riding a lot more, so I got a lot stronger, and I think I carried that into my 40s too. But then as my kids got older, they took more time, and the time had to come from somewhere, and it came out of my riding schedule. I wasn't going on the long rides or as frequently, and subsequently my fitness level kind of tapered off from where I know it used to be, and I can still remember how it used to feel. And if I can't go out and do those kinds of rides right now, there's a certain part of me that is, I don't know if I want to go and slog around.
I know I described it like this. People ask me, hey, how come you don't do Grand Fondos as much, or how come you don't go on these group rides? And when my daughter was born and I changed my the way that I divided up my days, cycling, came down pretty quick. Other things went out the window completely. But at the end of the day, I felt like I had been riding like a 500cc MotoGP, race bike.
Yeah.
As far as my physical fitness went, to where I was on a moped all of a sudden.
Right.
And I just didn't have as much fun
on
on my moped as I did,
That's right.
ripping on my MotoGP bike.
I totally get that, because I feel the same way, and I think that has also happened to a lot of guys who are cycling guys, who are riders. As they age, that's aging out, and you kind of go, wow.
Where you got to be careful is that self-perception. What I've tried to do is disassociate from who I was, maybe as a younger guy or when I did it for a living, to who I am now, and I'm just a different. That was a different time in life.
Yeah, so. And you're right, and it's hard to let go of that. It's like, no.
So how do I do cycling so that I can enjoy it?
Yeah.
And you can't attach yourself to who you were. It's who you are that day. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm kind of going with. So
I know.
I'm hoping that I can. I just want to enjoy cycling and be healthy and have fun. So I like group rides. I like to attack. I like to be competitive.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick break in the show, everybody, to let you know this week's discount code is PEZ. That's P-E-Z, all capitals, and that is good for 30% off your cart at DeFeet.com until midnight, October 5th, 2018. So hopefully you can make use of that, and back to the show. It's fun to...
The group rides, for me, I spent a bunch of years, probably in the last 5 years, riding on my own, just due to my work schedule and the kids and stuff like that. So the times that I would go with the group, I was busy doing kid stuff. So I could go during the day when the kids were at school, which basically meant going on my own. And after a number of years of riding around on my own, I just got tired of it, because one of the things I like and I miss about riding in the group is the social aspect. I want to go out and spend time with people I want to spend time with. I don't want to go through the rest of my days or on my own.
It's one of the best things about road riding. And I didn't like that as much about mountain biking, because on mountain biking, it's like you're so into the stimulus that you're having to deal with. You got to stop to be social.
Yeah.
Unless you're going up a climb and you can yell at each other.
Yeah. Which usually the climbs I remember, at least in North Vancouver, are so steep. Nobody's talking going up a climb.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not as social until you stop. It's more like skiing, where you do the run, then you get on the chairlift.
Yeah.
Skiing to me is more social than mountain bike.
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing. I'm for sure making more of a conscious effort to add more social activity to my fitness and to my riding. So a couple of years ago, I started doing spin class in the winter because it rained so much. The weather was the shits. I didn't feel like going out on my own, and I could go be in a room with a bunch of other people, more or less my own age, spinning, doing some exercise.
Yeah.
And then I got to know some of these people, and it just becomes a social thing. You become familiar with them. Hey, how you doing? And you start seeing. Then
you should try water aerobics.
Never. I should try that. I should find out where that is. Not really big on the water, but I'm sure if the instructor was a certain caliber, I'd be right in there.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen them. I've seen them in the pool.
Huh.
And, but to get back to your point about aging out, I don't necessarily think that. Well, I guess aging out is sort of maybe a relative thing, where maybe we age out more in our own minds, because certainly the body can do more than most of us maybe realize that it can do.
Yeah.
So we don't age out, but we sort of mind out.
Yeah, but I guess in general, and I'm saying age out, it's like it becomes, the further you travel through your life and you add more years to your age, things change around you that weren't the same as before, and those things that are changing cause you to reduce the amount of cycling you're doing or lose interest in it or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Go do other stuff. I don't know. I remember about 10 years ago, the boom of cycling travel companies taking people on tours to Europe. We're going to the Giro. We're going to the Tour de France. It was a massive explosion. And some of these guys got pretty big. That industry, I think, I feel like there are less companies doing that now, and less people doing it, because so many people, you can only go and watch the Tour de France on your bike.
Yeah.
I
also have a theory on that.
Please, do tell.
Well, all right. You ready for my theory?
I'm ready.
Technology. I think that the world has become so much easier to move across because of these little devices that we have, these little boxes that tell us directions, that help us translate, that help us find deals on hotels, that help us navigate through the day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's better. It's certainly less romantic than the days of maps and having to
actual paper maps.
Use a guide or have the right person in Italy, somehow try to tell you about this special hotel or restaurant. Now you can do Yelp wherever you're at, or whatever.
Everything's in English.
And even the people in the other countries are sort of Americanized, if I can say that. I don't like it necessarily, because
some of those cultural differences are lost now, because we've seen enough young generations come up that those young generations want to speak English. They want to mix with the West. Their
media, because they're holding the same box in their hand, right?
Yeah.
So their media is the same stuff. So if you're all getting your media from the same places, Google, Facebook, whatever, all this stuff is the same internationally.
Yeah. Everybody ends up being the same.
Everyone blends, exactly.
All of a sudden, and it's not I totally get that. The attraction of going someplace different isn't like it used to be, but you're right. And more, once you go on a tour with a group a couple of times, a lot of people go, I can do this myself.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's a little simpler, and it's different. It's not the same. I've traveled with dozens of groups where we've gone point to point. We've stayed in one base and done rides. We've stayed with some fantastic bike hotels in Italy and other places. And sort of, I feel like I've got a really good depth of experience across all the different ways to travel with your bike. And
you can do it. So you bring your
Yeah.
3 buddies over there and you all do it.
yeah,
Hey, when I hire a fishing guide, I don't. It's not because I love paying that guy $500.
Yeah.
I also want to learn the area so that I
Yeah.
can go do it on my own.
yeah.
And anyway, so that's a bit of a theory on the cycling tours and what's happened in that change. It's still a very good service, and I
It is,
totally
isn't
recommend it to people
Everybody.
who
Yeah.
haven't done it yet.
If you haven't done it, go do it. I do just feel like, the boom of that maybe has passed right now because people have done it enough times that it's a big holiday to get organized if you're from North America, for sure. 2 weeks riding your bike around Europe, you got to tee up the time, you got to organize, do my wife and family figure into this, or if I'm going on my own,
Sure.
that's a separate issue I got to deal with. Am I going to get the time off for my family to go just ride around? There's a lot of logistical issues, so you can't do it every year. Maybe it's a once every 5 years kind of a deal.
Statistically speaking, at least in North America, we have less disposable income to be able to do those things as these other things
Yeah,
rise in price.
yeah.
But anyway, let's circle back around to DeFeet.
Yeah.
What do you see at DeFeet?
Well, right now I see we're sitting in the booth at Interbike, and we're back in the corner, surrounded by a cacophony of colorful socks. And I love these things. I mean, look at this sock right here. This is where we need the video to come in, but this is a beautiful, it almost looks like a pride sock, if I may be so bold. People would be proud to wear this.
Yeah,
I would.
well,
Look at all those, a rainbow of colors.
I'm going to wear a pair of those.
Very stylish sock. What model is this that I'm holding? One of the famous aeriators?
I don't even know the name. It's the first time I've even seen this one myself. So
The Mondo.
We're doing
It
a
says-
collaboration with Alexander Julian, who's a famous fashion designer. He was just in the booth a moment ago. That's him over there in the tweed jacket.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
the stylish gent.
He's very stylish. So we're doing these base layers with him.
Okay.
And like that one over there with the sublimated wool sweater look, that's a
Yeah.
world famous design from like 1978. And you can
cool.
wear that on a 100-degree day and it looks like you've got this wool sweater on.
Nice.
And it's one of his styles, and his whole thing, I talked to him, it's a really interesting guy, talking about, what makes this, what makes timeless styles and how he receives his inspiration from nature and all these things. So that's very interesting.
I love the fact that base layers have come out of the white undershirt look closet. It's like these are fashion items, and I love this. It's like all of a sudden
That's from like the 70s, and I didn't know this, but he explained this to me. I'll just tell you real quick. So in the 70s, you remember that the whole free love thing and all that? Well, there was also like a clothing thing happening because it was after World War I and World War II, people were so tired of these uniforms that meant you were part of this establishment, or this part of. And they were just like these drab uniforms. So really, the 70s were a time of this blossoming of self-expression. And so that's where these designs are coming from.
How did you guys get connected with?
Timeless.
So how did DeFeet get connected with Alexander Julian?
He's from the Carolinas, and we have friends who knew some of his friends and said, "Hey, you guys need to meet." And we all came together. And he's a cyclist. His dad owned a bike shop in Chapel Hill, so there's a lot of tie-ins there with his own history and DeFeet history. And cycling was sort of like the nucleus that pulled us all together.
That's one of the things that I like about meeting with you guys year after year, and I think you do this differently than most of the other brands, maybe every other brand in cycling, is that you find somewhat obscure cycling connections that you relate to, and you bring them into the fold of DeFeet, and will produce a product or make a sock or something that is inspired by these non-traditional, expected cycling influences. It speaks to your own philosophy, the philosophy that I always think of as DeFeet that goes beyond what the name might initially inspire to people. But as a company, you guys are really always, I think, doing things differently. Even though to the casual observer, maybe they only see cycling socks. But if you get a little bit below the top layer, you realize that, oh yeah, the stuff that makes, I think, DeFeet continue to be a relevant brand is partially because you guys are just so interested in finding cool connections for cyclists that go beyond just putting socks on a machine, yarn on a machine, and making a sock.
Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that, and I agree. And a lot of it really comes from, I think, Shane Cooper, our founder. So he came from, he's of that age where you worked on your own bike. If you had a car, you figured out, his old Triumphs, you had to figure out how they worked. So that went into knitting machines, how do they work? And so that sort of mechanical nature, when you approach the world from more of a mechanical sense and say, hey, it's really interesting how you make that, then it becomes less about, oh, we can go buy these products over here and we'll market them and sell them as the best and we'll make money that way. So our approach is really more of a, like, how do you do it so that it works? And start there. So it's kind of a fundamental ground up philosophy. But
I like it. I mean, it's just always been,
we make our own stuff. So when you make your own stuff, I always said, a lot of people came to us over the years and said, why do you guys do that? Why does DeFeet make its own? Can't you guys make more money, more profit if you just make them in Asia or something and then just sell them? And I'd say, well, then it wouldn't be like, then it wouldn't be DeFeet. It's like, if you were a band, don't you have to make your own music for you to be authentic, or do you just go pay someone else to make your music?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I just think there's an interest. I came to you guys probably in around 2003, I think, and I really wanted to do a branded Pez Cycling News sock. I thought it would be the coolest thing to have my own socks. When we were just starting out, we didn't have too many readers, but you guys were down for it. You said, yeah, you know what? I think I was going to the tour for my first time as a journalist, and I was like, okay, I should have some socks, something that says Pez on it. And you guys were down for it. And he said, I kind of couldn't believe, I was almost blown away that you guys just wanted to step up and work with me on these socks, because we did a trade. I didn't even pay you for the actual money for the socks.
Hey, you had value in your platform. We saw that.
I was like, oh, this is a really cool way to build some relationships. Let's work on the barter system.
You were doing it very organically. I mean, you were starting with just you.
And look, I'm actually wearing the last iteration of my
that's
Pez
a good
sock.
looking
Isn't that a nice sock?
So if someone, let's finish this up. I know we've got other things to do today, although this has been really nice with you, as always. But tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find those Pez socks.
Pez socks.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're online on the interweb. You can find us through the Google at pezcyclingnews.com, I like to say.
That's P-E-Z, cyclingnews.com.
Or depending, if you're in Canada, that would be P-E-Z, cyclingnews.com.
P-E-Z.
Yeah, so it just depends. There's some regional differences, although the spelling's the same. And we've got now, you can find us on YouTube at, just look for Pez Cycling on YouTube. We've got, about 100, just over 100 videos I've managed to create and post, and hopefully people will find those entertaining. I love the YouTube platform. I think that for us, it's a great way for us to show readers that we, in fact, remain a unique and distinct take and a valid part of the cycling community. I think with social, this is maybe another topic for another time, but how everything in the landscape of online media reporting has changed. That's another topic. But yeah, come and see us.
That's a big topic. So you could say you could say very similar things about media and content creation as you just said about DeFeet. So there are some. So we're
going to have to get together for another one of these podcasts.
Let's do it. Let's do it with some Negronis, maybe.
Okay, I'm all in.
Yeah, maybe in Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
When are you guys coming up?
Thank you, Richard.
Pleasure as always, Paul.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great show.
All right.
All right, so that's it for this show, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be posting several new shows that we record at Interbike in Reno, Nevada. and those will all be posted in the coming weeks, so make sure to follow along. So until next time, stay on your bike and stay tuned.